Backfield Breakdown, where we discuss everything there is to know and whatever we think about football with Justin
and Jared.
We are going to bring you the hottest takes and the best time when it comes to football. Do you want to start us off, Jared?
Yeah, so I think the best way to start talking about football, we just finished up week 1 of football, just finished up week 1 of fantasy football.
Yep.
I think it's a great time to talk about who our winners were this week, our losers, both in players and in teams. So let's just go through. We'll start with our winners and losers. So as you can tell, if you're not watching our video and you're just listening to the audio, I'm a huge Cleveland Browns fan. I'm wearing my Cleveland Browns jersey. And Justin here is a Dallas Cowboys fan.
So until week 5.
Until week 5.
Yeah, after week 5, we just kind of all abandon the team, and you blame Dak, you blame Jerry, whatever you want to do.
So there's a little tension this week because the Cleveland Browns faced off against the Dallas Cowboys. I keep telling people it looked like the Cleveland Browns hadn't played a snap of football in their lives.
Really?
Absolutely disappointing display from them. You go from a team that had the most injured team in football last season and still made playoffs to not even being able to play a 1-touchdown game.
I mean, my opinion is probably biased, but Deshaun Watson had lost a step last season. He's now lost 2, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really too bad because even though I'm a Dallas fan, even though we beat you, sorry, I like the Browns.
You know what, though? It's being a Browns fan is accepting the losses and just moving past them. Since I've been a Browns fan, we've had 2 seasons with a winning record. Started rooting for the Browns in 2016, if memory serves, is the 0-16 season. The 2020 season, if I'm remembering correctly, is the first season that we've had a winning record since I became a fan. And that was the year that Baker took us to the playoffs and retired Big Ben. And then we had the 2023 season, the Joe Flacco season. And now Joe Flacco's playing backup for your guys this season. Justin here really likes the Colts this year. They had a great showing against the Houston Texans this week. I mean, the Texans are everybody's favorite to win the AFC South this year. Offensive Rookie of the Year last season, CJ Stroud, leading a team that's realistically only bolstered their offense and defense in the offseason. Yes. I mean, you've got Kymie Fairbairn, who is quite the underrated kicker. You've got Stephon Diggs added to the team. I mean,
great.
There's a lot of questions about Stephon Diggs always, even dating back to his time in the Vikings. It was always, you never know what you're going to get out of Stephon Diggs.
Are you talking in the locker room or on the field?
In the locker room. Okay. You always know you're going to get a good performance out of Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
But you never know if he's going to be a distraction for the team.
This is the way I like to talk about wide receivers, because the quarterback's the guy. We can hate it, we can love it, but it's the truth. And will Stephon Diggs be better for CJ than he was for Josh Allen?
And you know what? I think that he will be. I really do. I think the biggest question comes down to, can Stephon Diggs keep his ego aside in stat lines?
I hope so.
For the betterment of the team. I really think that the Texans are a team that could go all the way.
Yep, they're making it pretty far in my season-wide projection, but honestly, I think it's a 2-team race in that division.
Oh, for sure. And I think the Colts kind of proved that this week. The final score was 29-27. A field goal would have won that game. And the Colts have a star-studded offense. You've got Anthony Richardson, Michael Pittman Jr., Jonathan Taylor, Matt Gay at kicker. You've got a good team there. I think they could do a lot better than a lot of people are going to give them credit for.
I really hope their defense holds up. It was fantastic last year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's a real catalyst, and I'm really hoping that it continues. You know how great defenses can be. Even with great additions, sometimes it just doesn't work out for whatever reason the next year.
A team that I feel has really bolstered their defense this offseason, the New Orleans Saints.
That was a
Absolute
game.
steamroll over
That
the
was a
Carolina
game.
Panthers. You were seeing Derek Carr doing things that I've never seen him do in his career. Just going shoulder first into defenders and then chirping afterwards. Absolute steamroll. I mean, I think everybody's expecting same old for the Panthers this season. I think they're going to be
finishing above the Vikings.
I have them finishing last in the NFL.
In the NFL, really?
Yeah, I do.
It might be too close to say after just, week one, but as for the Saints, I had them finishing really, really low. Last in the division, one of the worst records in the NFL.
Really?
I think I had
shocked
them
by that. I've been paying attention a lot to them in the offseason, and they've got some great additions. I have them as a top 5 defense this season.
Yeah, I could definitely say that I agree with you, but is that going to be enough? Football is just as much offense as it is defense these days.
Oh, for sure. Look at the MVP award. It's primarily offensive players and primarily quarterbacks at that.
Which is unfortunate.
Quarterbacks always will get the credit. That actually transitions really well into our next game. The Tennessee Titans and the Chicago Bears. Some wild stuff came out of that game. Caleb Williams is the first rookie quarterback in week 1 in, I want to say it was like 14 years to win week 1. I could be wrong on that number. For number 1 quarterback picked in the draft in 14 years to win week 1. And that's such a crazy stat line to me. However,
they didn't even have an offensive touchdown.
Exactly my point. All of their touchdowns were pick sixes. I think they might have had a safety, stuff like that. But what really, really gets me about this game has nothing to do with the Bears. The Tennessee Titans head coach said after the game that they could have punted on 1st and 10.
Oh, yeah.
Every single time. And they would have won the game. That's wild.
That's not good. That's not good.
That's just, man. Poor Will Levis. Poor Mr. Mayo. This is his second year in the league?
Yeah, this is his second year.
I don't envy his position. I don't envy any first or second year quarterback that is thrust into an opening, like a starting position.
That brings up a point for me about the Bears. This is week 1, and we all have those crazy predictions. The hottest takes come from week 1. One of my way too early predictions. Caleb Williams is a bust.
You know what? I would absolutely agree with that.
Which
I would absolutely agree
secondary
with that.
point. Sound the alarm on Caleb Williams. His first throw was terrible. Ben DiNucci had a better first throw. Okay, that one's too hot.
I'm gonna counter your hot take here with another hot take of my own. I agree with you on Caleb Williams. Bust. Here's my hot take. Everybody's saying Jaden Daniels will be offensive rookie of the year, right? No.
It's
gonna be my guy Bo Nix. Oh, I've been saying since the draft that Bo Nix was gonna be a player this year.
That's my second way too early prediction. Bo Nix will be number 1 in at least the rookie quarterback discussion.
Oh, for
the end of the year. Everybody, you can be upset at it if you want. He was the most accurate quarterback in the entire class.
Absolutely.
You can't discount it.
Say what you will about Sean Payton. And, is Sean Payton an actual good coach, or was he carried by Drew Brees? Say what you will about that, but he has always had a great eye for quarterbacks, and he is constantly singing Bo Nix's praise. He is firmly in Bo Nix's corner, and that gives me hope for this kid in the future. I really think that he's going to be the offensive rookie of the year.
That makes me kind of turn around on my second sound the alarm. I was going to sound the alarm on Sean Payton, but with what you said, I'm kind of changing my mind because I forget that he's a no-nonsense coach because I look at last season and the way Russell Wilson kind of whined all year and thought, it's Sean Payton's problem.
So speaking of Russ, the Steelers beat the Falcons. So here's an interesting stat line for you. There are 2 teams in the NFL that did not record a single touchdown.
Yes.
At all. Not even a defensive touchdown. No touchdowns whatsoever. And those 2 teams are the New York Giants, who lost 28-6 against the Vikings, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, who won 18-10. And their kicker earned the AFC Special Teams of the Week. I don't care how much I dislike the Kansas City Chiefs. The Pittsburgh Steelers will always be my number 1 most hated team in the league, and that's pretty obvious. I know that the Steelers fans are gonna chirp in and say, oh, he's butthurt. We own the Browns. We own the North. You're absolutely damn right. I am 100% butthurt that the Steelers own the AFC North, and that's why I will always hate them. But you know what? We retired Ben Roethlisberger, so it doesn't matter.
That actually translates into my disappointment of the week, which was Justin Fields.
Really?
I thought that Justin Fields would come out and be that quarterback he was for like 3 weeks last year, but I thought the catalyst would be different. I thought the catalyst would be my number 1, Russ, is injured. He can't play. He's suited up on the sidelines even though he can't play. Why don't I go out and just ball out? And he didn't.
But you know what? He's still the starting QB for week 2.
Is Russ out or is he just questionable?
I'm pretty sure he's just questionable now.
Is it going to be another Denver situation? What do you think? Well, actually, what do you think, everybody? Do you think it will be another Denver situation? But what do you think, Jared?
I don't know. Honestly, I think that is the toughest QB room to predict this season. I mean, I've already said I'm really hot on Bo Nix, and that, in my opinion, was, before the season started, was the weakest QB room in the league. Because you've got Bo Nix, Zach Wilson, Jarrett Stidham. I'm a huge fan personally of a QB sitting on the bench and learning from a QB, a Jordan Love situation, Dorian Thompson-Robinson in Cleveland. I'm a really big fan of quarterbacks sitting before they start for rookies. And that's not really something that we got to see out of Justin Fields. He's kind of been forced into playing. He's still a really young guy. I want to say that Justin Fields will be successful on the Steelers. I really do, and that's coming from somebody that doesn't want to see the Steelers be successful, but I don't think he will be, and I don't think Russ will be either. I certainly think that Justin Fields is more of a long-term answer for Pittsburgh. I don't think that he is the long-term answer for Pittsburgh, but he is more of a long-term answer for Pittsburgh.
I agree with your statement about Fields, unless Mike Tomlin was fired or stepped down, retired. If Mike Tomlin wasn't there next year, I think Justin Fields would be the answer in Pittsburgh for the long term.
I guess we'll do another sound the alarm here, because I got a hot take regarding Pittsburgh. People think I'm crazy for this. People think that, oh, you're just blinded because you're a Browns fan. I think that this is going to be Mike Tomlin's first losing season. I'm not really big on George Pickens. Despite drafting him in our fantasy league, I'm not really big on Najee. I think Jalen Warren's the better running back. That quarterback room is just not it. I think that they are going to have a losing season, and I think that they are going to draft a QB in the 2025 draft.
Let's move to the Green Bay Packers, because I am sounding the alarm on them. Not Jordan Love, because he'll be back week 6. Hopefully, if all goes well. But I'm sounding the alarm on them as a whole. You can definitely leave out Josh Jacobs from that conversation, and I think Jordan Love's left out of that conversation too.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think Green Bay, despite losing the first 6 weeks out of Jordan Love, I still think they make playoffs. I really do. I still think that they make playoffs because, and I'm going to get some hate for this, only because the NFC sucks. The NFC as a conference sucks. And I don't see anybody in the NFC having a better record than the teams that I have in the wild card, which one of those is the Packers. The 49ers, just 32-19 against the Jets without Christian McCaffrey and with an underperforming receiver room.
Yep. And can you say Brock Purdy underperformed because of the
I don't say Brock Purdy underperformed. Let me make that clear. I am a Brock Purdy apologist. I love Brock Purdy. I think that everybody calling him a system quarterback, since when has that been a bad thing?
Thank you.
You know, it's a
Brock
quarterback's job to manage the field. And he does that amazingly. He's one of the best game managers in the league, and I think that he is way better than people will give him credit for.
Do you know who was a brilliant game manager? And this hurts me to say as someone who hates him, but I'm sure all of you Mainers listening will love it. Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm. I knew exactly where you were going.
The Buccaneers Super Bowl. He was a brilliant game manager.
Mm-hmm. Especially towards the end of his career. Game managers are some of the best quarterbacks in NFL history. I mean, come on, guys.
You don't have to be a superstar when you have those pieces around you like Christian McCaffrey.
For sure. And the fact that they still won without him by a decent margin, 32-19. That's a 2-touchdown game.
What did you think? What'd you think about Rodgers?
Man, I may not like Rodgers as a person, but I respect his ability as a quarterback. Yep. He has the most MVP awards of an active quarterback in the NFL right now, and he's earned those. He has them for a reason, but I had him at the beginning of the offseason as my comeback player of the year. I don't see it. I don't see it. I saw a few flashes, but I saw way more flashes of old age, and I think that this is, and I could call this a sound the alarm. I could call this a hot take, but I don't really think it's a hot take. I think this is Rodgers' last year in the season. I think he wants to just finish off with a winning record, maybe a Super Bowl if he can, pull a Peyton Manning, but this is Aaron Rodgers' last season. One of the things that we wanted to talk about, this is my second year as a fantasy football commissioner. It is my 4th season playing fantasy football. We're just going to kind of week to week do a little highlight on a different position and what purpose that they serve in fantasy football, or more accurately, kind of my viewpoint on those positions. There's different ways that people will draft those positions. We'll start with one of the biggest positions in fantasy football, the quarterback.
Perfect.
I'll be honest with you. I don't go for your long reception or your long throw quarterbacks. I'm not drafting Tua, but I'm drafting your rushing touchdown, specifically rushing touchdown. I don't care about your rushing yards. I care about your rushing touchdowns as a quarterback.
I'm clapping back here because I do follow, Anthony Richardson's my starter in each of my leagues. He's my ride or die this year, but I'm clapping back about Tua. He's projected in the 18 points range usually, but if Tyreek has a great game, that goes right up, man.
I see your point. For me, for quarterbacks, I'm going for the quarterbacks that go with the rushing touchdowns because they're more likely to consistently get points. Because a rushing touchdown is worth quite a bit in fantasy football.
What, 6 points?
I think so, yeah. So I'm going for like your Kyler Murrays. Your Jaden Daniels was a great fantasy QB this week. Anthony Richardson, great fantasy QB.
Yes, he was.
Josh Allen might be the best fantasy QB because you get both out of him. You get those passing yards, those passing touchdowns, and you get those rushing touchdowns.
You're going to be getting more rushing touchdowns from him this year. I'm going to add to your quarterback description for fantasy football. The reason you want that, everybody, is because when you have a dual threat, and you're playing especially PPR, you get 5 yards, you get a little bit of points. It's a problem if they carry the ball a lot and their yards per carry is bad, but you always have that extra. Like he was saying, you always have that chance. And I know he's probably a bit more of a passer, but if you have CJ, if you have Anthony Richardson, you can add Patrick Mahomes to that too. even though he's less of a hot commodity now in fantasy. You want those guys.
So we were talking about Aaron Rodgers, who I earlier was talking about as my initial thought for comeback player of the year. Let's talk about the year-end awards. Let's talk about the one that I hate to phrase it like this. I think that most NFL fans care the least about, and that is the Coach of the Year
Coach of
award.
the year.
I'm big on coaches. I care a lot as well. I'm big on coaches. And I think that there's a coach this year that I really like his vision for how you should play an NFL football game. He goes out there and, he sometimes makes decisions that the majority of us would think are questionable, such as going for the touchdown instead of kicking the field goal to send it into overtime.
Yep.
But the way
now
he
I know
describes
where
it,
you're going.
the way he describes it. An NFL team's job is to win the game, not send it into overtime. If you're not trying to win the game, you're not trying to play. And so my coach of the year this season is Dan Campbell.
Well, my coach of the year is in an incredibly different direction.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, my coach of the year, he's very much for the players.
Mhm.
And he's got an incredible offense that really has a lot of up and comers. My coach of the year is the one, the only Mr. Mike McDaniel.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I can totally see that. I just love Mike McDaniel's vibe.
Yeah, he's a chill. He's so for the players.
I'm going to compare him to another famous television coach. He is the American football version of Ted Lasso.
Yeah. Yep, I see it. That's great.
He connects with his players on a different level. You look at the way that Tua talks about Mike McDaniel versus the way he talks about Brian Flores.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's night and day. These players, they know that Mike McDaniel has their back, and Mike McDaniel knows that the players have his back.
He's unlocked Tua.
Yeah, it's just the perfect combination of the team dynamic, the coach dynamic. I really like the Dolphins. I'm not going to lie. Let's go to the rookies, offensive and defensive. So I've already said my offensive player of the year, or offensive rookie of the year in Bo Nix. I think these year-end awards always favor QBs anyway, but I want to hear your offensive rookie of the year.
Okay. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be the offensive rookie of the year.
I'm actually shocked. You threw a curveball there for me because I thought you were going a different route. Same position. I thought you were going with Xavier Worthy because everything coming out of Chiefs training camp is, God, this is going to be a bust draft pick. But I dig the Marvin Harrison Jr. Choice there.
It's probably a lot of bias. I loved watching Marvin Harrison.
For sure. I mean, it's football. We're always going to have a little bit of bias. Great pick. He's certainly an odds-on favorite to win the award. Defensive Rookie of the Year. To me, there's a clear-cut choice here. And I think that comes out of his performance week 1. Jared Verse.
Yeah, no, he's written down for me too. I can't really add anything to it because it's just one of those defensive classes.
So speaking of great defenders, defensive player of the year, a lot of people thought he got snubbed last year. I think he's got a lot to prove this year, especially where a lot of cap space going to other players on his team.
I know where you're going.
And you know what? I'm a big fan of this guy, but I'm also terrified based off of what's coming out of training camp because he got some offensive snaps at running back this offseason. My defensive player of the year is Micah Parsons.
That's my defensive player of the year as well. Cowboys bias, sure. He's the guy. But the snaps at running back do scare me.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? I had to take the defensive player of the year award really objectively. I had to really sit down and think about this because I am a Browns bias guy. The Browns have one of the best defenses in the league. And I wanted to be able to sit there and say, yeah, I think that my man Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah was going to win defensive player of the year. But I couldn't put him over Micah Parsons. And then I'm like, I want to say that Myles Garrett can because he has the chance to tie a record that is held by one of the most legendary defensive players in NFL history, Lawrence Taylor. 12 sacks per year for 5 consecutive years. And so this was tough for me.
Right.
If he accomplishes that, I can absolutely see Myles Garrett winning Defensive Player of the Year. But realistically, I think that Micah Parsons just has way more to prove this year.
I'm going to pull back what I said just a little bit. I want Micah Parsons to win Defensive Player of the Year. That's who I think should win it, but there are 3 other guys that I immediately think of who could easily take it away from him. That is, of course, the wonderful TJ Watt. He's
I wouldn't say
incredible.
wonderful.
Well, no, not exactly.
Great player. Great
But
player.
the and the Bosa brothers. Either one.
Really?
Yeah.
You see, I thought you were going with TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, and Max Crosby there. Offensive Player of the Year. I really think that you're going to like my answer.
All right.
I think he's going to lead the league in QB rushing touchdowns this season. And I think that he is going to lead his team to a deep playoff run. I got AR-15, Anthony Richardson.
Okay.
As my Offensive Player of the Year.
I actually don't have him as my Offensive Player of the Year this year. My Offensive Player of the Year is actually the guy who he was playing against.
Ooh, you got some CJ Stroud action going on here?
He showed so much. In my eyes, he's a superstar already, and you only bolster everything around you. Joe Mixon, Tank Dell, Collins, great coaching. He could easily walk away with that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you look at the way that we tend to see our next dynasty quarterback. It tends to be after or the year that the reigning dynasty quarterback wins the Super Bowl or does like a really well year. You saw that with Tom Brady leading into Patrick Mahomes. And I think we're seeing that now with Patrick Mahomes leading into CJ Stroud. I think CJ Stroud is going to be the next dynasty quarterback.
I certainly hope so. I'm tired of watching Kermit hold up that damn trophy.
Listen, man, you know what happens when you call him Kermit, right? You doom your team to mediocrity. That's why the Raiders are not going to have a winning season this year.
I mean, my team is doomed to mediocrity until Jerry Jones hangs it up.
You know what? That's valid. I still got them making playoffs.
Oh yeah, they have the roster to do it. But they also have one of the best wide receivers, which brings me to the next award. Who do you think is going to be the best wide receiver? Mine actually isn't CeeDee Lamb.
Best wide receiver in the league. You know what? I want you to answer first because my answer is going to lead directly into my MVP.
Tyreek Hill.
I 100% agree because and this is a hot take alert here, my MVP is Tua Tagovailoa.
Yes. It's here. It's here. You can't even see it. Whoa, that's cool. But it's here. It's on the paper.
I got him right there. I don't know if you can read it or not, but I got Tua. So seeing Tua doing so well on that team now, another one like we were talking about earlier, game manager. He really knows how to work with his team. I've got Tua as my MVP. And I'm so glad we're on the same page there. While I think that Tyreek Hill is going to have the most receiving yards in the NFL again, and I think that Tua will have the most passing yards in the NFL.
Oh, okay.
That's where I got him winning MVP. I don't see the Dolphins going all the way this year.
I have him winning MVP for not yards, but a combination of things. I think that Tua is not only going to have the best touchdown to interception ratio in the NFL, but he will lead the league in touchdowns. And mark my words, that boy is going to be accurate this year. Top 5 in accuracy. I can see him throwing for 4,000 this year, for sure.
I think that people might disagree with what I'm about to say here. You have him at 4,000 yards. I think he's joining the 5,000 club this year. I mean, even if he's not just throwing to Tyreek, he still has Jalen Waddle.
Who do you have for the best running back this year?
Um, I'll be honest with you. I think it depends on two things, or on one thing really. Does Aaron Rodgers stay healthy?
Yeah,
If the
because if he
answer,
doesn't, then Bryce Hall gets it, which I think is going to happen.
I've got Brees Hall winning in the running back game if Aaron Rodgers goes down with an injury. Because you look at last season, Brees Hall didn't play as many games as Christian McCaffrey, and his production was only slightly behind his.
Yeah.
I think that this is a breakout year for Brees Hall. Not even saying that last year wasn't a great year. I think that this is the year that sends Brees Hall next year as the number one drafted running back in fantasy football.
Since we're for some reason on the same page again. By the way, everybody, we didn't talk about any of this at
Yeah, these
all.
are blind takes.
Yeah. I think because I mean he's written down for best, but there's an asterisk next to it. I think if Rodgers is healthy, it's honestly it's tough to say, but even with CJ on the team, it could be Joe Mixon.
There's an award that we completely glossed over though. And this is an award that for once I really think is up in the air and I really struggle with. Even now, like I made my pick earlier, and that's the Comeback Player of the Year award.
Did gloss over that quite a bit.
I'm not even gonna stake my name on anybody. Because I think that this is just so up in the air.
There's a group of them.
I'll say my top three. Aaron Rodgers is a favorite if he stays healthy.
It's a given.
If he has a great season, I mean, you go from a first play season-ending injury
and
to
an Achilles, nonetheless.
Yeah, something that could kill his career to having, even if he has just a winning season, doesn't make playoffs, just has a winning season.
Yeah,
I could see Aaron Rodgers winning Comeback Player of the Year. Another player coming back off of an injury. He's still injured right now, but coming off of a season-ending injury last season. It's not his first injury of this nature. He had the same one in college, went on to have the best college season of his career. I predict that we're going to see a similar outcome in him coming off of this injury. And this might be my bias talking. Nick Chubb, man.
No. I know you're a Browns.
Nick Chubb came off of
deny
this.
Jerome Ford.
Jerome Ford's not going to be that RB1 when Nick Chubb gets back. When it mattered last season, Jerome Ford didn't perform the way that Nick Chubb would have. And that's why when Nick Chubb gets back, he's that clear RB1 and he could get that Comeback Player of the Year, man. I don't discount him. He's not even playing yet, but he's able to work out. And have you seen the weights that he was putting on? Like, man, Nick Chubb is a beast. He is just that guy. And then my third, another guy in the AFC North. He unfortunately has the curse of being the worst quarterback in the league for the first 4 weeks. He's also favored to lead his team to the number one seed in the AFC. I got Joe Burrow.
Hey, cool Joe. Nice.
Joe Shiesty.
Nice. I have two, and then I have a want.
Okay.
Yep, because my want's never gonna happen because my team is stupid. So I'll do the two realistic picks first. I honestly think that King Henry could be back in full force. My other realistic choice is also a running back, and it's not Christian McCaffrey. It's Saquon Barkley. You were the man on your team, and you continued to be the man, and then your team just, due to so many things, dropped the ball. And you left, and you went to a contender, and I think that Saquon can have quite the impact across every matchup this year.
Mm-hmm.
And the player that I want so bad to be that guy, because he still can be, is Dalvin Cook.
Man,
And
I
yet
don't know.
He's gonna sit, or he's not even gonna be activated from the practice squad.
You know what? I like that. I'm going to throw another name in the hat.
Throw it.
Same team. Ezekiel Elliott. He played
Love hate.
horribly on the Patriots last season. And now he's back
Terrible.
on the Cowboys.
They didn't know how to use him.
Now he's back on the Cowboys, and suddenly he's playing like it's like prime Ezekiel Elliott. I could see
Shit.
him getting the comeback player.
I think that's an extremely realistic pick. I have a love-hate relationship with Zeke, much like all of my fellow Dallas fans, but I am in the minority when it comes to how I do talk about him. I am an apologist. There's so many things he can do wrong, but there's so many things that people say he's done wrong that I will disagree because it's not him, it's the team.
Mm-hmm.
The plummet in yards per carry, you have to look at who got hired. You have to look at who got hired and what he was doing when he won the Super Bowl in Green Bay. McCarthy has always been a two running back system.
Looks like it could have came out well for you in the end if Dalvin Cook has a season like
I
you
hope so.
hope that he has.
A two running back system of Zeke and Dalvin Cook. Holy, you could do that. You could have that be if Zeke was healthy. You could have that be very reminiscent to the Browns with
Chubb and Hunt.
Yep.
Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Yeah, I would agree with that. So let's move right into our predictions for the season. I'm going to start with the AFC. So starting with the AFC East, I've got the Bills winning the division. I've got the Dolphins in second, the Jets in third, the Patriots in last. AFC North, earlier before week 1 happened, and before a lot of the controversy with the Browns, specifically with Deshaun Watson, I think that the allegations are going to be an obvious distraction for the team. So I've got the Browns not doing nearly as well as I initially predicted them. So we're going to go the Ravens winning the North, the Bengals in second, the Steelers in third, the Browns in last. AFC South, I got the Texans winning the division, the Colts, the Jaguars, then the Titans. The West, I've got the Chiefs winning the division, the Chargers, then the Raiders, then the Broncos. And this is not indicative of how I feel like the Broncos quarterback, Bo Nix, will perform. NFC East, I got the Eagles winning the division, the Cowboys, then the Commanders, then the Giants. NFC North, got the Lions, then the Packers, the Bears, then the Vikings. The NFC South, with my hot take, I've got the Saints winning the division, going 11-6.
Oh, okay.
After their performance this week, I revisited the Saints schedule, and I don't know, man. I got them going 11-6 now, and I could even see them going 12-5. I got the Saints are an underrated pick for this season, and I will stamp my name behind them.
All right.
Saints, Falcons, Buccaneers, Panthers. And then NFC West, the Niners will always win. The Rams got second in the West, then the Cardinals, then the Seahawks. So just going through my playoffs real quick, AFC number 1 seed is the Rams, 2 is the Chiefs, 3 is the Bills, 4 is the Texans, 5 first wild card seed is the Dolphins, 6 is the Colts, and 7 is the Chargers. I got, obviously, the Ravens get the bye week. So your week 1 matchups, you got the Chiefs and the Chargers. I got the Chargers winning that one. The Chiefs are trying to do something that has never been done before. Odds are stacked against them. I don't see them winning the Super Bowl. I don't see them getting to the Super Bowl. I don't even see them getting to the AFC Championship. And then you've got the Bills versus the Colts. Hot take, I got the Colts winning that. You've got the Texans and the Dolphins, which I got the Texans winning. Then you've got your Ravens versus your Chargers. I got the Ravens winning.
Oh, yeah.
You've got the Texans versus the Colts. I got the Colts winning. That's a revenge game.
Really? Wow. Okay.
And then your AFC champions, the Indianapolis Colts. So I've got the Colts making it to the Super Bowl. Lions number 1 seed getting the bye. Got the Eagles versus the Rams. I got the Eagles. The Niners versus the Packers. I've got the Niners. And then you're not going to like this. I got the Saints beating the Cowboys. Wild card exit. The Dallas Cowboys have been eliminated from playoff contention. the Saints are going to make it to the divisional round. Then I've got the Lions beating the Saints. So just to be clear, I had every single divisional champion making it to the divisional round. I've got the Lions beating the Saints, and I've got the Niners beating the Eagles. We're going to have a revenge game, NFC Championship, back-to-back years, the Niners versus the Lions, and your NFC champions and Super Bowl winner, the Detroit Lions, with Amon-Ra St. Brown as your Super Bowl MVP.
Oh, great pick.
3 receiving touchdowns is my prediction for him. That's going to be enough to win him the Super Bowl MVP.
My AFC division winners in the East, we have the Dolphins at 13-4, followed by the Jets also at 13-4. Then you have the Bills at 11-6, and then the Patriots at 2-15. Sorry,
I don't know. I understand this is an early prediction, but to be clear, my prediction I did today. So it was, knowing what we know about week 1, kind of a cheat. Whereas Justin, you did yours before week 1 even happened, before the Patriots, looking the way they did against Cincinnati, went into Cincinnati and beat who a lot of people think is going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. I disagree with that 2-15 assessment.
No, that's fine.
I don't think it'll be by much, but I do disagree.
I did it based off of realism. In my brain, like the realistic choice, and I accounted, home and away and all that stuff. So then in the North, the king in the North will be Mr. Derrick Henry. I have the number 1 overall seed of the AFC being the Ravens at 14-3. Mm-hmm. Then you've got Cool Joe at 13-4, the Browns at 12-5, just squeezing into the playoffs. And then Mike Tomlin is going to have his first losing season, just missing it at 8-9.
Yeah, I think that's the most realistic thing for anybody, myself included, that believes that the Steelers will hand Mike Tomlin his first losing season.
Then in the South, I've got the Texans at 13-4, Colts at 12-5, just missing the playoffs, unfortunately.
Really?
That was before the season. I really can't be sure now. The Jags at 5-12, and the Titans at 1-16.
Oh, so you got the Titans with the number 1 pick this year, I'm assuming?
Either them or the Giants.
I could see that.
Yep, and then the West, Kansas City, 12-5. The Chargers, 11-6. The Broncos at 4-13. And then the Raiders at 3-14. Then in the NFC, we've got the Eagles coming out on top, 14-3, followed by Dallas at 12-5, followed by the Commanders at 2-15, and then the Giants at 1-16. Then in the North, the Lions at 15-2, the Vikings at 8-9, the Chicago Bears also at 8-9, and then the Green Bay Packers at 3-14. In the South, the Falcons at 13-4, followed by the Panthers at 8-9. I am so sorry, Baker, but I have the Bucks going 4-13, and I have the Saints going 3-14. And in the West, of course, San Fran 13-4. Oh, then I have the Rams 12-5, the Cardinals at 6-11, and then the Hawks at 3-14. Overall seeds, the Ravens, and then the 7th seed Browns going up against the Texans. You've got the Jets going against the Dolphins, and you have a wonderful Super Bowl rematch, the Bengals against the Chiefs. In the NFC, you have the Lions as the number 1, then you have the Vikings and the Eagles, you've got the Rams and San Francisco, and you've got Dallas and the Falcons.
All right.
The AFC, I have the Browns moving on. I have the Dolphins beating the Jets, and I'm sorry, Joe, I have the Chiefs beating the Bengals, unfortunately.
I can't see the Chiefs beating the Bengals, only because Joe Shiesty's record against them.
I know.
3-1.
And then divisional, you've got the Browns and the Ravens. I'm going with the Ravens. And then Chiefs versus Dolphins. I'm going Dolphins. Conference championship. Ravens versus Dolphins, and I have the Ravens moving on to the Super Bowl. In the NFC, Vikings, Eagles, of course, Eagles. The Rams and San Fran. San Fran moves on. Dallas versus the wonderful Atlanta Hawks. Sorry, Kirk, but Dallas moves on. In the division, Dallas and the Lions. Sorry, Dak. The Lions move on. San Fran versus the Eagles. Jalen Hurts goes home. And then in the conference championship, just by a margin, just by an itty bit, San Fran takes down the Lions. They move on to the Super Bowl where they win.
It's a revenge game.
Brock Purdy gets that first championship and the Super Bowl MVP. And people look at Shanahan just like the next coming of Bill Belichick. Something dumb like that.
I think that 49ers team is phenomenal. But man, football is all about the story. And that revenge game, the Lions losing the NFC Championship game against the 49ers 2 years in a row, I just don't see it. I just don't see it.
Yeah, it's too bad the NFL weren't scripted.
Huh, yeah.
Moving on to tomorrow, Dolphins versus Buffalo. Who do you have?
Dolphins versus Buffalo tomorrow. I've got the Dolphins. Dalton Kincaid didn't really show up last week. They don't really have any offensive weapons other than Josh Allen. I see the Dolphins winning. So anytime I quote times, I apologize in advance. It's going to be either Pacific Standard Time outside of Daylight Savings Time or Mountain Standard Time within Daylight Savings Time, because our time stays the same year round. So 10 a.m. Pacific Time on Sunday, we've got a few games. The Seahawks versus the Patriots, the 49ers and the Vikings, the Giants and the Commanders, the Saints and the Cowboys, the Chargers and the Panthers, the Colts and the Packers, the Browns and the Jaguars, the Jets and the Titans, the Buccaneers and the Lions, and the Raiders and the Ravens. Quick predictions. 49ers, Vikings.
49ers.
Absolutely. Seahawks, Patriots.
Patriots get it done at home.
I agree. Giants, Commanders. I got the Commanders.
Same.
Chargers, Panthers.
I've got the Panthers winning this one.
I don't think they get it together enough because this is a Jim Harbaugh-led Chargers. So I got the Chargers. Saints at Cowboys. I got the Cowboys.
I've also got the Cowboys, of course.
Colts at Packers. I'm going to agree with you, and I'm going to go the Colts because I keep forgetting Jordan Love is injured. Yep. Browns at Jaguars. I'm so torn on this. I still got to go the Browns just because of the whole talk is just how bad the Browns were against the Cowboys. Yeah. And so I feel like that's going to be motivation. So your pick for the Browns and the Jaguars?
Browns. Yeah.
Then we got the Jets at Titans. I got the Jets.
I've got the Jets.
Buccaneers at Lions. 80% success rate in domes. Got to go Jared Goff and the Lions here.
I mean, I honestly think there's no other choice.
Raiders, Ravens. That's in Baltimore. Got to go Ravens. They're both of our number one seeds this year. Rams at Cardinals is a tough one, and I feel like this is going to be an absolute rager of a game. And I'm kind of tempted to see if I can get some tickets last minute for it.
I have the Cards taking it.
I got the Cardinals winning that one too. Bengals at Chiefs. Joe Shiesty.
I've got the Bengals. Yep. Absolutely.
Steelers at Broncos. I would have gone the Steelers if Russ was starting. Okay. Nothing against Justin Fields, because I think I've made it very clear that I'm big into revenge games.
Yep.
Seeing Russ go back and beat the Broncos, that would have been a cool story. But Russ isn't starting. I got the Broncos beating the Steelers.
I've got the Steelers beating the Broncos. I don't see Justin Fields having a stinker like that 2 weeks in a row. It's not going to be spectacular. I think the defense will win it for them.
We've got our primetime game, Bears at Texans. I've got the Texans winning this.
I do.
Not only because they are the better team, but they are in Texas, in Houston. We're going to see another Joe Mixon standout week. Texans over the Bears. And then lastly, our Monday night football game, the Atlanta Falcons against the Philadelphia Eagles. Obvious answer here is the Eagles.
Absolutely.
They're struggling without Jason Kelce, but they're still going to do it. And then my game of the week, Rams at Cardinals. I think that's going to be an absolute barn burner.
Ooh.
I am so tempted to make the trip up to Phoenix to go see that game.
You know what? I'm going to say that it will be Bengals Chiefs.
That's an absolute valid pick.
I'd love to say Saints Cowboys, but
I think it'll be a fun game. I think it will. But I think that the Cowboys defense is just going to put too much pressure on the Saints. I think this is going to be a loss for them.
And it's all about the names, really. Cool Joe, Patty Mahomes.
All right. Believe that's all we got for you guys today.
Unless all of you have anything for us. No? I guess that's everything, man. This has been Backfield Breakdown. I am Justin.
And I'm Jared.
Tip your waitresses, drink some water, and let's tailgate. Watch some football, everybody. Good night.